Our next speaker is the former Managing Director of Pfizer Limited India. Presently, he is the Promoter Director of Salis Lifecare Private Limited and Strategic Advisor to various companies. Under his leadership, Pfizer India became one of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in India. He has constantly challenged the rules of the game, whether it was making Pfizer India the first MNC to enter into the branded generics space in India or explore unique partnership with the government to increase access. He is recognized as an industry expert on issues concerning the pharmaceutical sector. Post-retirement with Pfizer, he has worked in the domestic and global generic business. He has helped companies to source abbreviated new drug applications, generic drugs, and active pharmaceutical ingredients in developed markets like US. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming onto stage the former Managing Director of Pfizer India and Promoter Director Salis Lifecare to talk to us about trust loss and trust gain, the difficult terrain. With us right now, Mr. Kewal, Handa. Welcome, sir.
How the system works, tell me. How the system works?
Sir, yes, in front and behind.
This is front?
Yes.
Okay. So very good evening to all of you. Let's have some fun. That's what Flipkart said to the guys. And they did a research and published a research paper which said, beauty breeds success. Immediately somebody tweeted, this is not fair. Do you mean to say people who are not beautiful or handsome are not successful? And then the barrage of mails followed. Finally, Flipkart had to apologize and said, sorry, there was a content mistake. Today, the world moves so fast. If you are not controlling your content, it could destroy you completely. Your trust level becomes so low that people don't want to then work with you. If you are in a corporate, you can betray trust and bounce back. Possibly, you can do that. But if you are an individual, don't take that risk. Your spouse may divorce you. You may not be able to come back on your feet. Corporates do get a second chance. And most of the corporates who have failed, at some point or the other, building the trust of their consumers, have bounced back. But some of the corporates failed miserably and could never bounce back. This is a very interesting slide. It's a McKinsey slide, actually. And it says, how does the brand fulfill the three basic functions? And they are all linked. You know, brands, most of us think, are basically giving information. But we don't realize that we use the brands basically for other reasons also. Like medical products, you want the products to be safe, to treat you well. If there are electrical gadgets, you want to see that they don't give you shock, they work. If they are cars, you need to see that it works safely, the safety system works, the engine works, there are no fires. And at the end of the day, why do you own a brand? You own a brand because it builds your confidence, it builds your self-esteem, it defines who you are. However, the third element really is interesting. It's the risk reduction. Many times the brand fails because it is not able to cope with the risk reduction proposition. Assuming a brand fails on safety and you are not able to do anything about it, the first thing it impacts the brand image. You as a consumer would say, why should I buy this brand? And it also gives you a very low self-esteem. And consequently, you see the brand's values comes dramatically down. Then even whatever information you give about the brand, it doesn't work because there is a trust deficit and the brand is not able to bounce back. These are some of the brands which have bounced back. They had challenges at one time or the other, but then they are the best global brands in the world. All brands have challenges. It's how do you overcome those challenges? How do you face those challenges are very critical. Now, take this case of olive oil, where it's a very recent case. This is one of the biggest olive oil brand. It said that it has an extra virgin or something like that, extra virgin oil. When the oils were tested, they realized it was of a poor quality. What the consumer perceived, what this is the excellent brand and paid premium for it, actually was a poor quality brand. There is something called 3 Ps in an organization. We say people, planet, and profits. If you want to make quick short-term profits by these types of gimmicks, you're bound to suffer. And this brand has taken a strong beating now globally. In India, some of these stores are not carrying these brands. And if you're using this brand, don't pay extra premium. Now take this case of Cadbury and Maggi. Cadbury happened many years ago. Cadbury had its footprints in India for decades. Well-established brand, well-recognized brand, no issues on quality. Suddenly, somebody found that some packs were infected with worms. Was there any quality problem at the production level? No. What was the problem at the distribution level? Was it pan-India problem? No. It was in some pockets. Was it deliberately done by Cadbury? No. It was an accident. It was not properly communicated how the product should be stored, how it should be kept. This was an aberration. And when an aberration happens, the brand doesn't suffer that dramatically. And Cadbury realized that it's an aberration. And it immediately changed the package. It immediately informed all storekeepers how to store the goods, provided them cupboards to store, in some cases provided them small refrigerators. And the brand bounced back very, very fast. No issues. But at that point of time, there were no Twitters. There was no Facebook, mind you. Now let's come to Maggi. Maggi was caught saying that it was substandard. The ingredients were not safe and healthy. A local inspector in UP raised the issue. Maggi is Maggi, an MNC company, said, what does he know about testing? We are a world-class company. We do testing globally. This product is available globally, but they were wrong. The product available globally didn't have additional ingredients which got mixed with Maggi's when you cook it. Those were not those masalas you add to Maggi's, were part of the product. But Maggi kept on insisting that quality was right, there was nothing wrong. They didn't react for some time. They faced challenges from the world outside. They kept on communicating with their loyal customers on Facebook, on Twitter, on FAQs, and so on and so forth. But they couldn't bear the onslaught of attack the government was doing on them. Suddenly, they took a U-turn and withdrew the product completely. $50 million losses, 640 crores of penalty was levied on Maggi. Then they started reacting and put things in order. So, is when these things happen, you have to react fast and react immediately. Don't challenge the authorities at that point of time, for God's sake. Work with the authorities to find a solution. Maggi's was still living in that world that nothing can go wrong. and they are the dominant player. India needs Maggi, without realizing there were other players ready to, nip in and fill the space. These two cases are different. Maggi was a conscious decision to change the packs, to launch new products. Cadbury was an accident. And therefore, Maggi got a bigger beating than compared to Cadbury's. Now let's take these two cases, Marlboro's and Corex. Corex has codeine in it, which could be very addictive. Marlboro is tobacco, cigarette. Tobacco is not good for health. Both these brands are still the leaders in their category. They are vulnerable. They are vulnerable because of the sector they are in, the segment they are in. They are very vulnerable. Corex, because of habit forming in Punjab and some part of the northern areas, was completely controlled by the government. Retailers were not allowed to stock. Stockists were not allowed to keep. Consumers using Corex were caught and put behind bars. And we had zero sales in Punjab, in Bihar, and some part in north and east. What do? You can't sit there and say, look, okay, I'm sorry, I've launched this product in India. You can't do that. We went back and said, is there something wrong with Corex from the medical point of view? No. It has a medical rationale. There's nothing wrong from medical point of view. What is wrong is the delivery, the misuse. How do we work with the government? So we started working with the government, with police, with the people on the street, and went actually from house to house and educating the parents and saying, use Corex only when it is prescribed by the doctors. We supported the doctors and said, prescribe Corex only when you need to prescribe it. Within 6 months, we bounced back and got the sales back. So there is a different way of addressing these issues as you get challenged. Corex is now having another challenge. The government says, medically, this is not a rational product now. Therefore, adding codeine doesn't make sense. You cannot adopt now the same approach you adopted in Punjab. You need to change your approach. And now I am to see how this is going to be addressed by Pfizer, because this is a very important product. And if you just go and fight legally, it's not going to help. You need to address it in a different way, and let's see how it gets addressed. Marlboro, the great brand of cigarette, suddenly the government came and said, you cannot advertise on newspapers, you cannot advertise in cinemas, you are targeting young population, you have to move out of that. The brand would have just come down like this. But Marlboro did things very differently. It latched on its loyal customers. See, loyalty and trust are two different things. If you have loyal customers, you can build that trust faster. You have a trust customers who trust you, may not be loyal to you, not necessarily loyal to you. So you need to really see how do you want to shift from trust and build up the loyalty also. The build up the loyalty through various schemes like Marlboro Miles, point of sales, educations, donations in hospitals with tobacco-related problems, and so on and so forth. Both these brands are kicking and doing well now. Take this case. This is, I call it as deliberate cheating. They have betrayed the trust of consumer. Volkswagen is the issue of planet. To meet the environment norms, they played with their diesel engines. But they were not meeting the environment norms. They played with environment, they played with the planet. But they were caught doing it. When they were caught, they had to accept it. But their reactions was very poor. They closed all their FB accounts, they closed all their Twitter, they didn't communicate it to the external world. And now they are saddled with a probable penalty of $18 billion. Planet is a very, very, very strong reason today your product can fail. If you are playing havoc with environment, you have to be very sure that you are on the right side of the law. Otherwise, you may have some challenges. Similarly with Honda, Honda was not planet, but short-term profits, defective devices. Deliberately, knowingly, Honda used defective devices and is paying the penalty. So these type of companies will not have the consumer trust. It will be very difficult for these companies to get the trust back because they are consciously doing something wrong in the marketplace which the consumers are not willing to accept. Now, a lot of the automotive companies are aware that something is going to go wrong with the cars at some point or the other. So they build a sort of an product umbrellas around you. They don't have only one brand, they have many brands of cars. And if one car fails, they still have other cars to talk about. That's known as a little bit of product umbrella. Then there is what is, I call it upper layer, is a corporate umbrella. If you have a corporate which is very, very strong enough, which builds its loyalty and trust, which has consumer who can swear on it like Tata's, then even if Nano catches fire, it doesn't make difference to Tata's. That's the difference. So how do you build these layers is very, very critical to overcome the issues of challenges in regaining the trust. Now these are companies where really you will see they have certain value proposition. They stay on their value proposition, irrespective of what happens. And it is this value proposition that has built the trust with the consumer. And it is this value proposition that helps them to tide over all the problems that happens in the marketplace. Amazon, get personal. Be in touch with your individual consumer. Look like Coke, sell happiness. And we have Apple, fun. Nike, just do it. Starbucks had a challenge in 2008. Because of the financial crisis, they were losing trust of their consumers because they were moving to cheaper coffee joints. And they didn't trust Starbucks because Starbucks didn't reduce prices. And that's the time the Starbucks went back on their value proposition, said, how do we forge connections with my consumers? They actually invited their consumers to give ideas, work on their ideas, accepted 1,000 ideas of the consumers and bounce backs. So this is a very good story how you can really work with your consumer. So these are the way one can really talk about is building a trust. But what's important is how do we react? You need to not panic and not point fingers to others. Accept your responsibility. Accept your mistake. Accept that you were wrong. It's the first statement you say. You don't have to say, I failed because my employees failed me. GE did that. GE switches were not working. And they sacked almost about 70 people saying, these are the employees knowing very well that this technology is not right. They still put that switches in the market. It's wrong. You're blaming on your employees. You should have worked with your employees to build your internal trust. And don't blame your employees, take the blame on you and said, you were wrong and not my employees were wrong. So GE was absolutely wrong. The GE CEO came on the mic, there is a film on that and says that it's the employees who are to be blamed. Don't blame employees, take the blame on you. If there's something wrong with your product or your brand, you are to be blamed and not the employees to be blamed. Correct the mistakes. Telenol is a big case, is the most successful case of a biggest brand. Suddenly, somebody put cyanide in those products. Almost about 100 people lost their lives. Telenol didn't panic. They did things right. They recalled their entire products. They changed their packing and made it a tamper-proofing packing. And Telenol is still one of the leading brands in US. Now, after the cyanide was found, they still survived. Similarly, Cadbury, you have already seen that. Be transparent, absolutely transparent and accommodative. Don't hide. Let's take the case of Ranbaxy. What happened to Ranbaxy? They cheated the US FDA by giving false information. They were fined by the US FDA. till today they are never transparent. Would you trust Ranbaxy? Of course, now it's with Sun Pharma, but would you trust Ranbaxy? You will never trust. You will never trust. If a company can cheat US FDA, it can cheat its partners, why will I trust that company? Communicate, communicate, communicate. Simple. As much as you can communicate, you communicate with all your stakeholders. Stakeholders whom you reach out, stakeholders who support you. All the stakeholders need to be informed, need to be told what's happening. Use whatever you want to use, media, print, social media, use it, but communicate. Can you do a right click and then do the hyperlink? If you can get it right. Right click and hyperlink. Not getting it? Okay, he's not getting it. So I'm open for any questions now. Yeah. Pardon?
My question to you is brand communication an idea or it is more than that?
Brand communication?
Is it an idea or it is more than that?
Brand communication is idea or more than that? See, at the end of the day, brand are not ideas. As I said, it's information that it gives. It's the comfort that gives to you of the product. It's the image that builds within you. Now, for example, Louis Vuitton brand. What is Louis Vuitton brand? It's a brand which tells you that you have arrived. You're carrying a very expensive brand and people should look upon you because you have arrived. That's a Louis Vuitton. Now, it's an idea of improving your self-esteem when you carry your Louis Vuitton brand. That's the image that it creates. But if it's a medical product, if I give you a drug, it's all tells you that use Pfizer brand because I can assure you of the safety of the drug. That's the thought behind is the safety that comes in. Yeah. Anybody else?
Do we have any other questions?
Yep.
Yes, one more.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted to ask, do we have some Indian company with international brand? As an international brand, you have shown only international brands as global brands.
Okay, and unfortunately, there are no Googles, Microsofts, or Vigras in India. Yeah, that's something there are companies which are doing global work in pharmaceutical. For example, Indian pharmaceutical caters to the generic products in USA. It's one of the largest suppliers of generic products in India. You might be hearing that US FDA has come very heavily on the Indian companies. Their plants have been closed down, alerts have been issued. And the reason being of, most if you scan it, the major reason being only proprietary, the integrity issues. The documentations are not kept properly. The documentations are fudged, shortcuts are taken, quality is given shortchange. Now that's the reason why they have come on oil. So Indian companies as a brand globally, particularly in US and Europe, has taken a beating because of poor quality. But if there is any brand of Indian origin globally, it's a big challenge because global brands, most of it, if you see, are the ones which have a great IP behind them. India doesn't have an IP. And as a result of which, we really have not been globalizing our brands.